Welcome back to the Italian Hedges. Today I wanted to go through with you the process that we've gone through, the arduous process we've gone through to buy our house in Italy. So we, as you know from the previous video, we went out to see the house and it was a bit of a last minute thing. We managed to get a hotel booking, flights and so on, and they were really quite cheap because it was that season. So that wasn't in itself a problem. We flew out, had a look at the house, met a man called Mario and met the house owner, and he was very gracious, very communicative. Our Italian was terrible, his English was terrible, but we were able to use Google Translate and make it work. There was a lot of gesticulating, which is a pretty Italian thing anyway, but he was able to take us on a tour of the house, describe the history of the house, explain where we'd discovered some problems, what those problems would likely be, and we were able to spend a good hour and a half, 2 hours at the house. He was under no rush. He was happy for us to spend as much time as we needed. We've got a really good look at the house, a lot of footage to show you. So in the next video, we will show you the house tour. We'll introduce the house to you so that you can see why we chose it, basically. Then the problem started. So we left it with Mario that we were interested in the house. He likes to communicate via WhatsApp, and that tends to be pretty normal for estate agents in Italy. So we went with the flow. To me, that's not particularly businesslike, but we went with the flow. Mario explained that the house was up for a certain figure, which we'd agreed upon. We then looked at the plans and we did a 360, and parked behind the house is a barn. The barn comes with its own parcel of land, and as we'll explain in the next video, it made sense to look at possibly buying the barn as well, largely to ring fence and protect a land area for ourselves, all attached to the house. So we asked Mario if that was possible. He then explained how much the barn was up for, and we put in an offer below that he then came back and said, yes, the seller of the barn has accepted that value. At that point, we kind of figured out that the seller of the barn was different than the seller of the house, but we really didn't think too much further along. He then explained he would need to pass us on to his colleague, who turned out to be a completely different estate agent. The first problem that we came across was that there were then two estate agents. So we had Mario, who had effectively a finder's fee, and then our new estate agent, she explained to us, well, there would be a fee for her work as well. We would need to pay the two fees, and it was non-negotiable. We had to continue that way. To ameliorate that slightly, what she explained to us was the barn and the house could be parcelled up together with one notary fee. So it would be two separate sets of deeds, but one notary fee. So her fee was effectively ameliorated by the saving over the notary fee. So there was that. But then suddenly we move over and we start working with our new estate agent, at which point she explained that no formal offer had actually been put in on the barn, despite what Mario had said to us. And leave it with me, I will sort it out. Anyway, she did in the end sort it out, and we got our offer accepted on the house, and then we got our offer accepted on the barn. So we thought everything would move at a pace and everything would be fine. Cut to problem number 2. So we then heard back from our estate agent after I chased her that there was a slight problem with the house, nothing too much to worry about, but the land that comes with the house currently has a lease agreement to a farmer, and she'd been in touch with the farmer. He was happy to put in his notice for that particular piece of land. We weren't sure if it was all of the land, because the house originally came with quite a lot, but we're not buying that. But he was happy to put in his notice. However, he just found out his wife had cancer. He was elderly himself. Things weren't great. From what I understand, our estate agent went to his accountant, had the document raised for him to hand in his notice for the period of time, but by the period of time that we sign the final deed. So suddenly we had problem number 2, but she overcame that. And we thought, great, that's the end of it. Fantastic, we're on our way. And then it went silent again, and we chased it up and we heard that there was another problem. So problem number 3 was that mum of the owner of the house was still alive. She hadn't been living there for some years. but she'd never moved her official residency, and in Italy you have to notify the local comune of where you're living. So she'd never moved it, she'd never needed to move it, I guess. And then we find out that the plot thickens a little more. So Mum had moved in with her daughter. The daughter owns the barn, the son owns the house. I don't know the details of it. I know that Italy, like a lot of European countries, has an obligation to leave assets to natural born children, but that's really none of our business. But the mum lives with Maria. The son doesn't talk to the mother. The sister doesn't talk to the brother. And this has been going on, as we find out, this journey goes along, this has been going on for quite some time. So Mum needed to sign off her residence, but she's quite elderly. There was an argument via the estate agent of whose responsibility it was. The daughter said, no, tough, it's the son's responsibility because he's the owner of the house. The owner of that, he said, no, Maria needed to do it. Anyway, in the end, whether our estate agent got involved or not, the comune stepped in, and the comune police, so the immigration and residency police stepped in, and they changed it on Mum's behalf. So we thought, okay, we're finally there, no more hiccups. And then we move on to problem number 4. Mum's moving of her official residency was a tacit legal change. However, in her lifetime, and I presume this is because she was married to the owner of the property, her husband, in her lifetime she has something, and excuse my terrible pronunciation, but she has something called diritto di abitazione, so she has a right of habitation of that property until she dies. It can't be transferred to another living person, but it can be renounced. But Mum's not well enough to turn up to the notary's office to sign it. And then, I won't go into a lot of detail, but then warring siblings kicked in, and there was a big argument over who would pay for it, who was responsible for it. The preliminary deeds that were raised were effectively thrown out. We'd signed them, they refused to sign them. And we've spent the last kind of 6 or 8 weeks going backwards and forwards because they didn't seem to want to solve it. They were committed to selling the properties to us, but they hated each other more than they wanted to get it across the finish line. And having come from a bit of a warring family, I do know what it's like, but we were kind of piggy in the middle. Our estate agent at one point suggested that maybe we should give up and find another property. And I wasn't prepared to I wasn't at that point yet. I wasn't prepared to give it up. Shane was fully on board with that. We just wanted to see if there was a way that we could get it to that finish point, to the point where Shane said, do we need to get on a plane, go back across, go and see them, go, try and find a way through this. In the end, our estate agent included a couple of clauses in the preliminary deeds because they are dependent upon each other. So the preliminary deed for the house has a get out of jail clause that says if the barn doesn't go through, you can pull out of the house, and vice versa, which at the time was quite thoughtful from our perspective, but has turned out to cause a certain amount of chaos. So Mum's got to renounce her right of habitation, her ongoing right of habitation, because if she were to elect to do that, and she's not well enough to do that, but if she were to elect that, we couldn't live there. We would own it, but we couldn't live there. So in order for her to do that, because she's not well enough, Maria, the daughter, would need to take over her power of attorney, would need to have power of attorney to sign it off on her mother's behalf. She's agreed to do that, and the brother has agreed to pay for the notary to visit Mum to have power of attorney signed so that Maria can do that at the signing of the final deed. So all of this has taken place over the last couple of months. It's been particularly stressful for us. We are in the process, as you know, of wrapping up our house here in order to facilitate the purchase of the house in Italy. And that's dangled us on the end of a chain for quite some time, and we've been in a really difficult, it's quite stressful. It's not like moving from a UK house to a UK house. There's so much more involved in it. So we are now in a position where the preliminary deeds have been signed with a couple of addendums to make sure that this is all approved by both warring siblings. The sister will have power of attorney to sign her mother's right of habitation to renounce and finalise her mother's right of habitation, and that will happen at the final signing with the notary in Italy. The notary, in the meantime, will visit to make sure that the power of attorney is set up. We have copies of all these documents, and last week we paid our deposit sums. So preliminary deeds mean that you pay your deposit sums, and then effectively you go to, the only way I can describe it is in England, it's a kind of exchange of contract. To pull out from that point can be costly. So we're now in a position where we're good to go. We may well be able to bring forward the signing of the final deeds a little bit sooner, which would be great for us. But we're now playing a go fast, go slow, go fast, go slow to balance both sides of that coin. So that's where we are at the minute. Let me know in the comments if you've got any suggestions that might help, either with my stress levels or with any other unforeseens that you think might come up. I'd be grateful for any advice. It's a bit of an unknown legal situation for us. I understand that warring siblings happen. Hopefully this is now an end to it and we can finally move on with the next chapter of our life. But we'd be grateful for any comments and any suggestions and any, just you go, you've got this. That would be really helpful right about now. So yeah, let me know what you think. And we will be launching the next video very shortly, which is a bit more detail about packing up our life in the UK, and also a lot more detail about the house that we have now agreed to buy. Catch us on the next one, and thanks for watching. Bye.